Welcome back to Morning Break, and today's Monday Motivations brought to you by Gates Brain Health, where we have Dr. Randall Gates, board-certified chiropractic neurologist and chiropractic physician, here with us today, and we are talking about ADHD. And as I was telling you in the commercial break, my husband has ADHD, and I do not. And it's been very interesting loving somebody with ADHD and trying to create cohesion in a home and in a work environment in which we operate mentally very, very differently. And I have stories for days I could tell you about. So I'm very curious, though, where did your kind of fascination or interest with ADHD come from?
Well, I've been fascinated with it for a long time, particularly relative to the structural changes in the brain. I mean, we're all pretty aware of there are a lot of medication options available for ADHD. They're pretty successful. I think they're so successful now, I'm hearing that there are oftentimes shortages of the medications. You really got to prove that you have it. Sometimes people have to get family members' testimonies that they have it. But I always wondered, well, what's the root cause of it? If it's so common, I know there are a lot of opinions on it about how we're raised today and discipline and things of that nature, but it's a very real condition, and so I wanted to know what was going on in the brain causing this condition.
And so that's where the volumetric MRI came in?
Yeah, because I started reading studies showing that ADHD patients had relatively smaller areas of the brain involved in coordinating thoughts and also involving the focus area.
So is that what the TBI report is?
Yeah, so the TBI report basically is our density area of the brain that we'll go through. I think, yeah, it's up on the screen now. We can use the TBI report for a lot of different conditions, but namely what we do see with kids who have ADHD, we see that an area of their basal ganglia called the striatum can be larger. We do see that the cerebellum can be larger. This has been shown in many, many studies, which is an area thought to coordinate many actions, typically with movement, but it does coordinate thoughts. And then the surface area of the focus area is reduced.
So is that why, when you say that, it's like connecting thoughts that leads to focus, right? Where it's like, okay, I can sit down and I can focus on something for an extended period of time, or? Right,
yeah, exactly. So it's the inability to coordinate those thoughts. Kind of like you were describing before. What did you call them?
Oh, neurospicy blasts, yes. Thanks to TikTok for that, you know, and I think it's really interesting for Sam and I, because we do try to find the humor in it. Otherwise, I do think we would get even more frustrated with each other, because we have a tendency to see things very, very differently. And I was giving you the example of cleaning our house. I will start and end a task and then move on to the next one. And he likes to start like a dozen tasks and then finish them all at the same time. And until we kind of realize that he's not just like forgetting the task, he just is moving on to the next thing to give him a dopamine hit that seems more exciting, and then he'll go back and finish it. It was a lot of frustration until we kind of came to that realization that, okay, I need to let go of my system if he's the one working his system right now.
Makes sense.
And then, you know, vice versa. And it's just a different way of doing things, and there's not a right way or a wrong way. It's just different, which has helped us out. But yeah, sometimes it's those neurospicy blasts are very fun, because all of a sudden, you know, I'm having one conversation with Sam, and the next thing I know, we're talking about something completely different. I was like, wait, what? And then other times they can be really frustrating. And so I think the idea of having education and understanding that is huge, which just leads us to those articles that you had kind of mentioned, where there's a lot of things that go into ADHD and the way that our brain operates. And the more you know, the better you can live and understand it.
Absolutely, and I have a lot of parents that approach me now looking for something more natural, trying to understand the condition beyond medication. Again, medications, they seem to be pretty effective for this condition, but for parents who want to understand it better, that's what we're trying to bring to them.
Yeah, and like, let's show off a couple of those articles if we can, Sam, where it's like, it's basically looking at correlations between different things, right?
Yeah, and it's really looking at the architecture, the development of the brain. So we know, like, Einstein had a really dense brain, so they say, right? Well, now we're able to see, well, ADHD individuals can have less dense in certain areas of the brain, more density in other areas of the brain.
Yeah.
And then at Advanced Imaging Reno, you know, if a doctor refers their patient for a scan, we can actually get metrics on that individual's brain.
Yeah, that volumetric.
That volumetric TBI report, we get that on the individual's brain, or you know, if it's a kid or an adult, then that person has really something to work with in terms of understanding their brain.
Yeah, and I think that was the most important thing for Sam and I, and I speak to this, you know, from experience with, you know, loving somebody with ADHD, is that it can be very frustrating. It really can. However, it can also bring a lot of joy and a lot of fun, but it helps to understand it and to take the time to be like, okay, this, you know, what I might see as laziness isn't, you know, or what I might see as lack of focus is just him waiting to have that kind of like dopamine hit to get sparked into it. And there are ways he's learned to trick his brain into getting things done when he knows he's got a deadline and still doesn't want to do them and things like that. There's tons of ways out there that you can actually help with, almost like creating systems in place. Yeah, you know, if you don't want to go the medication route. And so I love this topic. I think we could talk about this for so much longer, but obviously we're running out of time. So if you have any more, have you ever done like any of your YouTube channels videos on this?
Recently I've done some talks on focus, and the focus area is called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It's kind of right out in this region of the brain. So you have some recent videos on that, pretty well received. Ways we can improve the density of that area. So it's pretty cool.
So if you guys want to continue learning more about ADHD, highly recommend you go to Dr. Gates' YouTube channel, where he's got several videos posted. I always post a link to his YouTube channel on colotv.com after the show, so you guys can go ahead and check it out. Dr. Gates, thank you so much. Like I said, we could talk about this for a very long time, but unfortunately we've got to go, so we'll be right back after this quick break.